Hello and welcome to livealittlehigher.com. This week we read Parashat Kedoshim, and Parashat Kedoshim begins with a lot of laws between man and man. And it says, "Be holy because I, your God, am holy." And what does it mean to be holy? So we're going to see here in the book of the Shem Mishmuel, he has a beautiful explanation of this parasha. So it says that Rabbi Hiya taught that this parasha was taught to the entire gathered nation. Rabbi Levi explained that this was because the 10 Commandments are subsumed by it. So interestingly, this parasha has many laws between people, of business laws, of not humiliating people, about not talking about people, many laws of not damaging other people. And here it says that the Midrash continues by listing these 10 commandments and demonstrating that each one of these commandments you can find in the laws of this Sidra, of this parasha. So the first of the 10 commandments is, "I am the Lord your God." And we see it both in the book of Shemot and we see it again in the book of Vayikra. And this corresponds to the statement here, "I am the Lord your God." So the parallel is not exact, for in the book of Shemot, the phrase, "I am the Lord your God," introduces God as the power behind the Exodus, because it says, "I am the Lord your God who took you out of Egypt and out of slavery." So in the book of Shemot, what it's telling us is that Hashem is the one that took us out of Egypt, and it emphasizes on this idea that Hashem is the one that liberated us, that redeemed us. Here in Parashat Kedoshim, on the other hand, it follows the imperative of to be holy. This is where it's giving importance. And it says, "I am the Lord your God, and you should be holy because I am holy." So the emphasis in this parasha is about holiness, is about us becoming godly. So I've said it many times, in different ways, that the Jew is not a person that is supposed to be spiritual. It's very nice if you're spiritual. I'm not going to take away from that. It's very nice to be a spiritual human being. But in reality, the emphasis of being a Jew is not in being a spiritual being. It's being a holy being, which is a complete different thing. It's very different to be holy, to be a person that sets himself apart from the world, that sets himself apart from the status quo of what people are doing, and keeps himself separate, doing what Hashem wants from him, following Torah, doing mitzvot. It's very different from being spiritual. So there's a very interesting Hasal from the sages, very interesting, very unusual Hasal, where it says that Rashimon Hashiloni expounded as follows: "When the wicked Nebuchadnezzar threw Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah into the fiery furnace," this we see in the book of Daniel, "Yarkomu, the prince of hell, stood before God and said before him, 'Master of the universe, I will go down to cool the furnace,'" this is in Pesachim, "'and save the tzaddikim from the fiery furnace.' Gabriel replied to him," Gabriel, the angel Gabriel, "The power of God will not be manifest through that, for you are the prince of hail. And everyone knows that water extinguishes fire. Instead, I, the prince of fire, will go down and cool it from it within and scorch from without, burn those who threw them into the furnace." And it says here, "And I will thus perform a miracle within a miracle." God said to him, "Go." This is in Pesachim. So let's understand this passage. So who was Nebuchadnezzar? Nebuchadnezzar was this Babylonian king who destroyed the first temple, the temple of King Solomon. And he erected this statue made out of gold, and he wanted everybody to bow down to this statue like if it was a god and pray to it. And these three very holy people, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah, refused to bow to this statue, and Nebuchadnezzar said to them, okay, if you're not going to bow to this God, then I'm going to throw you into the fiery furnace, and we'll save your God will save you. And there was this whole thing in heaven where the angel of hail said, let me go down and cool down this fire, because we know that the property of water is to extinguish the fire. But then the angel Gabriel came and he says, no, let me go down, and I am also the angel of fire. Let me add a fire to the fire, so the fire will become even more consuming. And from there you can do a miracle. So it was a miracle within a miracle. So the Gemara is most strange, for it implies that only miracles within miracles fully demonstrate the power of God. And what about the many other ordinary miracles of our everyday life that are performed throughout Jewish history? Surely they too showed God's control of nature and the world. And why is it significant that a miracle lies within another miracle? Once God demonstrates that he can overturn nature, what does a double miracle add? Like, if we know that Hashem can do whatever he wants to do, he's able to create plagues, he's able to part the sea, he's able to rain manna over the Jewish people in a desert for 40 years and feed them. So what is this double miracle gonna add to the equation? So surely it would have been apparent that if God can arrange for a furnace to cool, then he could just as easily burn those outside it, while the ones that are inside are unharmed. So perhaps we can suggest the following solution, says the Shem Ishmael. Had God allowed Yarkomu, the angel of hail, to save the three men, this would certainly have indicated that he is able to control and overturn nature. However, the angel Gabriel reasoned this would only have proven that God is stronger than nature. Like, God is stronger than nature. And this is analogous to the two men fighting each other, where you have a stronger man and a weaker man. And although both men are powerful, and even the weaker man can win the battle, the fight, this scenario would not accurately depict the control that Hashem has over the world. For in reality, there are no forces in the world other than God. So what it's saying is, like, if you have two different men fighting, one against the other, one is stronger, the other one is weaker, and either one can win, really, because maybe the weaker one is more agile, or the other one is tired, or whatever the reason is, this wouldn't show that there's one entity behind it. It would say it's two different men. But here, what we want to show is that the nature of the creation is also Hashem. So that it's not a separate entity. It's not like people say, oh, the forces of the universe, or Mother Nature, or the angel of hail, or the angel of fire. It's a different entity from God. Here, what it's saying, what the angel Gabriel meant, in response to the angel of hail, Yarkomu, is that everyone knows that water extinguishes fire. That's not a miracle. It's part of the nature of water. And had the prince of hail extinguished the fire, it would have been apparent that God is able to overturn nature, but not that he's behind nature in the first place. However, if Gabriel, the prince of fire, would eliminate the heat of the fire, it would show that fire only burns because Hashem decrees it to burn. That this is the reason that fire burns. Like the story of Rabbi Hanina Mendoza, that one day his daughter put vinegar instead of oil to light the Shabbat candles. And she said to the father, I forgot, and I put vinegar instead of oil, and now it's too late. I'm not going to be able to light my Shabbat candles. And Rabbi Hanina Mendoza, he had so much bitachon, so much trust in Hashem, that he said to the daughter, the same God that makes oil burn is the same God that can make vinegar burn. And she lit the candles with the vinegar and they lit up. So this is what the angel Gabriel is saying. And when he sees that fire only harms because God wills it, and thus the tzaddikim in the furnace were unharmed while their captors were consumed, a far greater manifestation of his power is achieved. And this idea is encapsulated by the prophecy of Yeshayahu, where it says, when you pass through the water, I will be with you, and through the rivers which shall not wash you away. When you walk through fire, you shall not be burned, neither shall the flame light upon you. And when in the future times, when the times of the redemption are here, when the full glory of God is revealed, everything, even nature, will realize that God completely controls everything. This is what it's trying to show us here. You think sometimes there's external forces. There's external forces taking over the world. Like now we see all these manifestations, all these people in the college campuses, crazy people, and you say, it's another force. It's the forces of evil or whatever you want to believe. In reality, it's Hashem. Hashem is behind everything. God is there. He allows it to happen. He allows it to happen. So we began by noting the first of the 10 commandments. I am the Lord your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of slavery. And the thrust of this commandment is that God brings into being everything in the world, and that He is a God of Klal Israel, and that He led them from Egypt, since Israel recognized Him and lived their lives according to His Torah. He is their personal God. And this indicates by the phrase, your God, and this recognition means that it is manifest to Klal Israel, that it is God rather than the laws of nature and cause and effect who rules their lives. So we see a few weeks ago, there were 300 and something missiles flying over the land of Israel that were sent by Iran. Huge, horrible missiles that if they would have hit the land, I don't know. I don't want to even imagine how much death there would have been in Israel. But you see that Hashem created miracle after miracle, and none of these missiles harmed anybody. And the great rabbis of Israel, they say that if people would really tap into the miraculous experience, because it was really a miracle of a miracle, that nothing happened, people would go out into the streets and they would dance all day. This is the amount, the size of this miracle. So this leads us to the specific connection to this parasha of Kedoshim, where it says, speak to all the congregation of the children of Israel and say to them, you shall be holy, for I, the Lord your God, am holy. And my holy, says the Shem Ishmael, his holy grandfather, the Rebbe of Kotz, explains the sequence of the verse as follows. The Torah tells us that we will achieve holiness because God is holy. We can become holy people because Hashem is holy. And while the Torah tells us to be holy, this is very hard for a simple human being. Like, it's not so easy to be holy. We have a very interesting makeup. We have a godly soul, we have an animal soul, we have a body. There's a side of us that wants pleasure, wants to have la vida loca, and then there you have another side of you that wants to be connected to Hashem. And it's a balagan. It's not so easy to become holy. But what it's saying here in this Torah portion is that we have the capacity, we have in our makeup, we have the ability to be holy because Hashem is holy. So how are we to reach beyond the physical and change ourselves into holy people? How can we ever come to achieve this commandment that Hashem gives us? So the Shem Mishmael, he explains that there's two different levels, there's two different phases in a spiritual development. He says one of the first one is that a person, after he takes a good look at his deeds and he makes an accounting of himself, and he decides to follow the Torah and to live a Torah life, he is going to become a pure person, a tahor, a pure person. And to achieve this, one must overcome one's natural inclinations. A person has to avoid the pull of the material world. He has to use the material world to elevate the world. It should be the intention of the material world should be only to be used for holy purposes. And this will make a person tahor, pure. And after that, there's a second higher level, and one that can be called kadosh. Kadosh means holy, that it's set apart, that it's separate. And this level, one has no desire at all of the physical world. So this is the level of a tzaddik. That he has no pleasure from the physical world. He uses the world for Hashem, but he has no pleasure from it. He can even have a soup, and if it's salty, he won't even realize it's salty because he has no pleasure from the world. So this distinction enables us to explain my grandfather, the Kotzker rabbi, cryptic interpretation. When the Jew looks heavenward, when you look up to heaven, he appreciates that God is the paradigm of holiness. Like when a person is praying, he's looking up and he knows Hashem is the paradigm of holiness. As he's utterly separate and different from any of us. Like he's nothing like any of the world. And so this appraisal allows us to draw some inspiration from the divine example. And when we do so, we will feel unable to act except with this precise framework which God has set for us, the laws of the Torah, and we will emulate God. So the way to become holy, to become a kadosh, is when a person not only uses the world for holy purposes, he becomes a pure person, but he emulates Hashem. He does what Hashem does. Hashem is merciful, you become merciful. Hashem is kind, you become kind. Hashem asks you to light Shabbat candles, you light Shabbat candles. So you shall be holy, for I, the Lord your God, am holy. And only an appreciation of this holiness of God will enable us to be holy ourselves. It's interesting that the parasha of Kedoshim really is talking about all these interactions between other people. It doesn't talk anything about God. It talks about not talking bad about people. It talks about not putting a stumbling block in front of a blind man, or not making a person that doesn't know fall, to not cheating your business. It's all about human interaction. And in our human interaction, the way that we behave with others, this is the way in which we can really acquire that holy state of holiness. And I heard a beautiful story the other day from Rabbi Eisenberger, that he was saying, like, there was this man that used to, this Rosh Hashiva that had a yeshiva, or he has a yeshiva, and one day he couldn't come to the yeshiva, so he sent his son, and he said to the son, I always serve the hot water, or the water in the yeshiva. When you serve the water, please only serve half a glass. Don't serve more than half a glass. And the son didn't understand why the father wanted him to serve only half glasses. And he started giving the water, And suddenly he said, but why half a glass? He couldn't understand. He thought the father was stingy. And when he came back home, he asked the father, Father, I don't understand why you asked me to serve only half a glass. And the father says, you don't understand. There's some teachers, some rabbanim in this yeshiva that have a Parkinson, or they're in an age where everything trembles. And so if you serve them a full glass, the water is going to spill and they're going to feel shame. And I don't want them to feel shamed. But if I only serve them half a glass, then it's too obvious that they tremble. So I serve everybody half a glass, so nobody spills the water and nobody knows who trembles. So this is a very high level of love towards your fellow, of not doing things to other people that will shame them, that will put them in the spot. And this is when a person really becomes holy. So I wish you a blessed week. Let's be holy. Let's try to be holy. We know we can become holy because Hashem, our God, is holy. And remember, live a little higher. Thank you.